First of all, Delta are a consulting and research firm. We specialise in what we call decentralised energy, so that's the technologies on in the yellow bubble here. So things that are on the customer side of the meter that focus around low carbon technologies and the associated kind of services and products around that. We focus on understanding the technologies, the markets they operate in, the policies and regulations in the UK, Europe and globally to deliver our clients market expertise, commercial insight and strategy and tactics which can help them to build their businesses. In terms of what I'm going to go through, there's almost 4 key messages that I'd really like to take away today. Firstly, as we've heard, decarbonising heat is a major challenge that the UK faces today. Second, electrification is going to be critical to deliver on that challenge, but also keeping options open, as Roger mentioned, and including low carbon gas in the mix can have benefits for both the network and for customers, as well as for manufacturers who are planning their business plans today in terms of what technology to develop in the future. And finally, there are savings to be made for customers that want to stay on LPG, and for customers using LPG today, there are low carbon technologies which can deliver significant carbon savings in that sector. The UK is committed to reducing carbon emissions by 80% on 1990 levels by 2050. And for domestic properties, this essentially means as near to zero as possible. So the CO2 from residential properties needs to get as close to zero, which is a huge challenge. To put this in context, there's 26.5 million properties in the UK today existing, so taking away new build. As Roger mentioned, a range of different build types, property sizes and different retrofitability potential. 21.9 million of these properties are connected to the gas grid or have LP gas. And combined, they contribute to 80% of the domestic emissions from residential heating. So you can see there's a really huge challenge. At some point, it's the on-gas properties that are going to need to be targeted in order to meet the targets. And as I mentioned up front, electric heating in particular is going to be very important to reach those targets. And every scenario that we've developed in the work we've been doing involves a large portion of electric heat. So last year we completed some work for the Energy Networks Association, which looked at a pathway to 2050 for domestic heating. You can see here there's quite a big chunk of electric heating here, mainly air source heat pumps, big potential again for hybrids. But what's important here is there's a big chunk of gas, and this still meets the 2050 target, so this still gets near to zero. And there's some assumptions around that you can find out more about if you want to ask me questions at the end. And as Roger mentioned, the 2030 pathway has a fairly similar finding as its overall key message. A different mix of technologies here, but again we see that there's a big potential for the low carbon gas technologies. So right up to here, we see there's potential for gas in the system, and this still gets us on the pathway to 2050. And there's really 2 key benefits. The first thing is it provides customers a greater choice. So in technology terms, for the housing stock, there's no one-size-fits-all technology. Customers are looking for a choice in solutions to fit their own budget and to fit their own property. And secondly, we've heard already a bit about the network benefits. So in terms of network upgrading, keeping gas in the system can save some cost using our existing infrastructure, but also in terms of flexibility of demand. So at times on the peak, the more electric heat we have in the system, the bigger those peaks will be. So actually having gas at times of the peak, such as hybrid technologies which use gas and electricity and can switch between them, allows you to soften those peaks. So how does LPG kind of fit into this picture, I guess? I'll use the same example that Rob used. So this is a detached pre-1900 property. So typical thermal demand, very high, 35,000 kilowatt hours per year. There are 360,000 properties in this segment today. And it's a challenge in terms of low carbon heat and how you would deliver in this kind of property. So it's a kind of property where a heat pump is not impossible, but could be more difficult. So we might need a 3-phase electricity connection to supply the house, which will add additional cost. It might need significant upgrades to the thermal insulation, which may mean solid wall insulation, which might not have very high appeal to the occupants. In terms of other choices, it could have a biomass boiler installed. But we know from customer research we've been doing over the past 24 months that biomass has very varied appeal among customers. So it won't suit every property or every customer in that property. So if we look at the different LPG options, that are potentially available for this customer. You see there's a whole suite of different options. And this line here is the LP gas boiler emissions from a condensing gas boiler, LP gas boiler. You can see there's significant savings that have been made by using some of the low carbon gas technologies. And one thing that's particularly interesting is that actually it's technologies that use heat pump technology, which have strong potential in this sector to deliver the highest carbon savings. So in this example, in 2030, a hybrid air source heat pump can deliver savings around 3,600 kilograms of CO2 in the year, saving about 40% to 45% on a typical LP condensing boiler. And I think that's significant because as a transition in terms of the longer term view past 2030 to 2050, it obviously helps to get customers familiarised with these technologies, as well as obviously delivering savings for the customers that choose to stay on LP gas. So to sum up, just again, the same key message I had up front. So clearly it's going to be a huge challenge to decarbonise heat. And I guess I want to echo the kind of message that keeping options open and having a mix and having solutions for every fuel type is going to be part of that journey to get there. And there are potential for low carbon LPG technologies in rural homes today.